Shoot it. Shoot it. Shoot it.
It was a bright, sunny summer day, and the streets were filled with children playing basketball, jumping rope, and running up and down the street with a sense of freedom that only a summer day can bring. But for one young man, Marcus Malik Jackson, this was a particularly special day. But this was the day when his favorite uncle would arrive, known by all the children as Uncle Moses. As the story goes, Uncle Moses was his great-grandfather's brother and the oldest member of his family. No one really knew how old Uncle Moses was. They knew that he was older than Aunt Pearl, and she lived to be 103. Some members of Marcus' family would tell stories about Uncle Moses. Once they told him that Uncle Moses knew Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey. Why, they even said that Uncle Moses sailed to Africa several times. Marcus' mother once told him that Uncle Moses used to visit her when she was a child. She said that no one even knew where he lived, but every year he would visit around the same time on about the same day. He would never stay more than one day, and he always carried his guitar, walking from one destination to the next. Uncle Moses was the family griot who told the children tales of Africa and America. There was a great mystery that surrounded Uncle Moses and a great joy, for many in their family saw Uncle Moses as their own special hero. Marcus waited patiently on the steps of his house. He looked up the street and down the street and finally saw someone walking towards the house. Marcus jumped up in the air and raced down the street shouting,
Uncle Moses! Uncle Moses! Uncle Moses!
Slow down, boy,
said Uncle Moses.
I'm not gonna die today.
Then he started to laugh, letting out a big yell.
Boy, am I glad to see you.
As Marcus and Uncle Moses walked to his house, all the children raced to be with Marcus. For they knew that whenever Uncle Moses came, he would tell them great stories about their history. He was a joy for the young and the old. The only thing that Uncle Moses carried with him was a sack and his guitar. When they arrived at Marcus' house, Marcus' mother came out and greeted Uncle Moses. He smiled and gave that crazy yell again.
Ooh-wee! Ooh-wee, child! The Lord done bless you. Looking mighty fine.
Marcus' mother told him,
Go get your Uncle Moses a chair, boy. You know he won't be here long. Hurry, boy.
Marcus raced to get a chair for his uncle, who just quietly smiled and said,
Thank you.
He sat down on the porch and looked at all the children who seemed to appear by magic from everywhere, just to be with Marcus' Uncle Moses. One little boy asked him a question.
Marcus said that you're the oldest man in the world.
Uncle Moses laughed, slapped his knee, and answered,
Believe I am, yes, sir. Been here longer than the oldest wise man. I remember when we were called Negro, then black, and now African American. I remember going from riding a horse to driving a car. I've seen more than I need and not enough to know.
Marcus cried out.
Uncle Moses, tell us a story. Tell us a story.
Then all the other children began to chant.
Tell us a story. Tell us a story.
Uncle Moses leaned back in his chair, staring deeply in each child's eyes, and asked,
What story would you like to hear this year about our history?
One boy shouted.
I want to hear a story about Africa.
A girl said,
I want to hear a story about Harriet Tubman. I want to hear a story about Malcolm X. I want to hear a story about
On and on they went. Finally, Uncle Moses said,
Woo-wee, children, my oh my. Now if you want me to tell you a story, then just sit back and listen. This is a story about two great black soldiers from World War I. World War I, yes sir. two of the greatest black soldiers of our time. Their names were Private Henry Johnson, who was later promoted to sergeant, and Private Needham Roberts. These two soldiers were members of the great 369th Infantry, the greatest fighting team ever. Back then, black folks were going through tough times. We had to fight racism at home and fight the people of Germany. Now listen up, my children, as I tell you this true story about Johnson and Roberts. On the morning of May 14th, 1918, sometime after 2 a.m., Private Johnson and Private Roberts were manning their observation posts. The Germans had been filtering through the lines of our soldiers all night. Johnson and Roberts were the only ones on guard at this time. Roberts heard a slight sound in the night. Johnson, he said, listen up, I hear something. Then they both heard what sounded like barbed wire being clipped. Johnson shouted a warning to the corporal of the guard. The Germans tossed a grenade into the bunker of Johnson and Roberts, and both of them were injured. Johnson, who was badly hurt, pulled himself up against the opening of the bunker with the determination and will of a true soldier. As he looked up, the Germans rushed in, attempting to capture him, but he managed to reach his rifle in time to fire 3 shots, killing 2 Germans. He swung the end of his rifle and knocked down another. Quickly, he turned just in time to see the German soldiers taking away Roberts as a prisoner. Johnson dived forward with only his knife, fighting with the last strength that he had, which allowed Roberts to get free. Woo-wee! Johnson and Roberts then stood back to back as the German soldiers rushed in again. Johnson was wounded again, but still, with only a bolo knife, he fought on. The German patrol could not believe the bravery of these 2 men. Although surrounded by 20 Germans, they fought on as if death did not exist. The Germans began to gather their wounded, and the soldiers that were left behind ran for their lives. Johnson hurled grenades at the retreating German soldiers. When all was told, Private Henry Johnson and Private Needham Roberts had single-handedly defeated an entire unit of German soldiers. These 2 black soldiers were honored as 2 of the greatest soldiers ever, Private Henry Johnson and Private Needham Roberts.
All the children cheered when Uncle Moses finished his story. Uncle Moses then paused, looking directly into the eyes of the children, and said,
always remember that the history of our people is a glorious one with pages of untold stories.
For the rest of the day, Uncle Moses told story after story about African Americans. When night fell, Uncle Moses said,
it's time for me to go.
So he grabbed his sack and guitar, getting ready to leave, when Marcus asked him one last thing.
Please, Uncle Moses, will you sing us a song before you go?
Uncle Moses smiled and said,
of course.
And his song went like this.
We are people of history. Our story is told in mystery. If we learn who we are, we'll be a people who see. A people who see our destiny. Come on, sing with me, children.
We are a people of history. Our story is told in mystery. If we learn who we are, we'll be a people who see. A people who see our destiny. We are a people of history. Our story is told in mystery. If we learn who we are, we'll be a people who see. A people who see our destiny.
As Uncle Moses started to walk down the street. He stopped to turn around and wave to Marcus and said,
I'll see you next year, my young man.
as he walked away, all the children waved goodbye to him, and Marcus looked up towards his mother and asked,
Mama, where does Uncle Moses live?
In all of our hearts.